So, when we talk about Ayurveda, it's the most famous verse which says, Hitahitam, Sukham Dukkham, Ayuh Tasya Hitahitam,
Mhm.
Manam Taccha Yatruktam,
Mhm.
Ayurveda Uchyate.
Mhm.
It deals with all the Hita Ayu, Ahita Ayu, Sukha Ayu, Dukkha Ayu. Ayurveda deals with the complete life. It is not just to heal diseases or has prescriptions for all the diseases how to heal, but how to lead a happy life, healthy life. In fact, the word swastha is very, very central to Ayurveda, the fundamental principles of Ayurveda. So to be settled, well settled within oneself. And this is what we all need to remember, remind us, and then put all our efforts to become that. And today, the situation all over is so acute. And to face the challenges of today's crisis, we need to revive that, become that, so then we survive. Not just survive, but we lead a life which is full of strength, full of happiness. And we are going to talk today about, and we will listen more from Dr. Mala Kapadia ji. So, more of a new world order. So, what this pandemic has taught us is teaching us what kind of lesson that we can draw from our ancient shastras, from the ancient acharyas, and especially from the Ayurveda. So then we tackle the situation, we are capable of handling the situation of the present time, this crisis, and lead a happy life. And then what kind of new normal that we are foreseeing. So how are we going, how the human life is going to be post pandemic, and it's, we don't know whether it is going to remain like this forever, or it's going to end soon, or it will take time. But this preparation is must, and then we must learn the life's lessons, and then bring certain changes to our life based on the insights which are given in the Ayurveda texts by the acharyas, which will be helpful in leading a right kind of life. Dr. Malaji, welcome you on this talk, and then we will be discussing about this new world order and the insights that the Ayurveda provides. So, how do you look at the whole fundamental principles of Ayurveda that is designed to lead the humanity for a happy life?
Thank you, Sampaji. Dhanyavada for the beginning of Ayurveda with the right sutra on Hita and Ahita Ayu. Unfortunately, what has happened that we have only reduced Ayurveda as a medical science. Of course, it's a medical science, but it's much more than medical science.
True.
So, as you rightly said, the definition of a healthy person in Ayurveda is swastha. Now, swa is self and stha is rooted or centered, right? Now, when we say swa, it's not just this physical self, but it's our higher self where we need to be rooted. It's our consciousness, it's the divine. So, Ayurveda is not limited only to this Annamaya Kosha or the physical body that we are seeing. And therefore, unfortunately, the way we have reduced Ayurveda to a medical system, even our own self, we only limit ourselves looking at the physical existence. And therefore, we don't even understand what is our biology, what is our psychology, how are we interconnected with each other, how are we interconnected with the universe, how are we interconnected with the nature. And also, we have not understood the pandemic. In pandemic, in Ayurveda, in Charak Samhita, in Vimanasthana, there is an entire chapter on pandemic. So let me speak a little about that, and then we'll go back to Hita and Ahitayu. Pandemic in Ayurveda is known as Jana Padodvamsa, what we call Mahamari, right? I mean, when the entire Janpad is getting Udvasta. So it's at a physical level, if we see it. Of course, we are those who are watching the television news or reading messages on WhatsApp with all those gory details. We get limited to only death and devastation, right? However, as you rightly said, pandemic is here to teach us a lesson. It's like we as humanity, maybe we were scaling a mountain of evolution, and suddenly we realize that we have slipped, and that slipping is hurting us. We are getting bruised everywhere. We have almost gone down, and we have to start our journey again. So we can look at pandemic from the Ayurveda perspective. And Ayurveda, as you rightly began with Hita and Ahitayu, Ayurveda says life can be lived at 4 levels. One is Hita, and the Hita Ayu leads to Sukha Ayu. So Sukha is after Hita. And if we don't live the Hita Ayu, then we are all in a Ahita Ayu. And therefore we'll be, driving down the journey. The path that we lead is on Dukha Ayu. And Hita is described very briefly in that one sutra, but throughout Charak Samhita, Sushrut, Vagbhat, all the classical text of Ayurveda, different way of Hita is defined. What is Hitakara? Hitakara, again, Sanskrit, you are more a scholar than me to be able to describe the beauty and the wonder of Sanskrit. Hita, at one very limited understanding, is beneficial. But it's not just beneficial. The Hita Ayu that Ayurveda talks goes much deeper and much higher. So what is Hitakar for me has to be connected with the Hita of others around me. Also the Hita of nature, Hita of universe. Therefore, Ayurveda's vision and Rashtram's Center for Well-Being, our vision is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. The Lok, everything and every being in the universe should be Sukhi. And Sukhi, we cannot become Sukhi if we are not living a Hitakara. Can we have all the microphones on mute, please? Thank you. Today, when we look at pandemic, it's like a storm, right? But it's scientifically proved that if you go within the storm, then the eye of the storm is always calm and peaceful. The storm doesn't reach the core. The storm is only on the outer periphery. For us today, this pandemic is a possibility for us to review our life, which has been ahitkar, and therefore, and it is result of the Industrial Revolution, which began some years ago and has been dictating our worldview into consumerism. So whatever is ahitkar to us, we have started accepting that as a way of life. And then if we expect sukha, and again, if we translate sukha very superficially as happiness, then we are in the midst of consumerism. And that sukha is very short-lived. It gives you joy only when you are having that one ice cream and pizza and buying, some things that you don't even need at a mall. But once you come back home, leave your shopping bags, neither there is hita nor there is sukha. And why does pandemic happen? How is it related to Hita and Sukhayu? That's the other churning that we can see in Ayurveda. Imagine millennia ago, Ayurveda texts were written, and it's very clearly mentioned that pandemic or Janapado Dhvamsa happens when you go back and do the root cause. It happens because of climate change. And climate change happens at 4 levels. It happens, one, at Vayu level. Now, all of us who are complaining of breathlessness, lack of oxygen, can we go back and see in our own life how many years on this planet from our life we have lived in air that is polluted? We never paid attention. We accepted it as a reality of industrialization and urbanization. We only blamed the government to do something about it. Of course, governance is important. However, what about individual responsibility? How am I causing the air pollution? So Vikrut Vayu, or polluted air, is the first reason which leads to climate change. The second reason is Jala, or water. Today, we all know that due to industrialization, most of our rivers are polluted. The level of sea is rising because of all the garbage that we have been dumping in. And we as individuals have created this. When we look at nature, there is no garbage. Everything naturally gets recycled. Everything is sustainable. It's we, the human species, who are so proud of saying we are the most intelligent species on this earth, who have lived very unsustainably. So Jal is polluted. You can escape Vayu. Maybe you can live one city where there is too much pollution, go to another city. The moment you go there, you realize, oh my God, the air is maybe less polluted, but here the water is polluted. So I can run away from air, I can run away for a water for a while. But the third aspect, which is creating contamination or pollution, leading to climate change, is Desha. And Ayurveda Acharya have beautifully explained Desha at 2 levels. One, of course, Desh means the superficial geographical region, which is the space, the physiological space of the city or the country or the planet Earth where we reside. And we have polluted so Desha is also, in Ayurveda, it's very clearly written in Charak Samhita that the Desha where people, and therefore it's collective, our own collective responsibility, people in whom there is no Dharma, no Satya, Lajja, Achar, Sheel, and Sadgun. Dharma, Satya, Lajja, Achar, Sheel, Sadgun. If they have destroyed in people's mind, these people pollute the Desha. Now, I think pandemic is a good mirror to all of us for a new possibility that how do we revive this? Because if lack of this has contaminated our Desha, how do we become Shuddha? How do we become purer so that the environment also becomes purer? And another Desha, obviously, is the body in which we stay and the mind in which we reside. Because swastha is not only at a body level, swastha is at also the manasik level. And the manas also gets contaminated because of all this contamination. And that manas causes the last, or is connected with the last point from Vayu, Jala, Desha to Kala. It's the time in which we are living. And therefore, this is, I mean, we have talked about it earlier also, This is like Mahakali's wreath. We all know that mother has a lot of patience, right? Therefore, we look at Mother Nature, Mother Earth. She has taken a lot of unsustainable and adharmic way of living from us. However, the moment we limit we cross the limits, obviously what happens is that she is into a wild mode. Shiva's Tandava, we've all talked about. To me, personally, pandemic is Mahakali's Tandava. And the only way we all know, even at home, when a mother is angry, everyone will be quiet, right? From a small child to all other adults in the family, everyone would say, let's keep quiet. Let's wait till she becomes peaceful and calm. And therefore, the isolation, therefore, the social distancing. Unfortunately, we have taken the social distancing also in a very negative way. Because this isolation actually can give us an opportunity to reconnect, revitalize, relook, reset our own life buttons.
Yes, very true, Malaji, which the word with which we started the swastha, and then we talked about the hita and ahita. Very interestingly, the word hita, which is usually translated as good, beneficial, something which is even auspicious. So the root sound of hita is root dha, from which the word dharma comes.
Right.
So unless and until, I mean, the qualities which were mentioned by you just now, what the acharyas have said, like dhriti, dharma, satya, lajja, these are the aspects, these are the ones which help us in sustaining ourselves by being in within ourselves. It's again, hita is also connected with the word swastha, how to be within oneself. So keeping that in the mind, because the fundamental principle of Ayurveda is hita, swastha, these are the words with which it lays more importance. And also, like as you mentioned, like it doesn't deal with one aspect, like just the Annamaya kosha, physical. And then we mentioned about that Ayurveda is not just to deal with the diseases, but it teaches us the principles of life, the very principles of life. So it is the shastra of life, how the life, what life is, human life is, and how it has to be led. In fact, it is not just the Annamaya, it is not just also dealing with the other extreme, which is divine, the inmost being, but it deals with every layer of our existence, every aspect of our life. So connecting these aspects, can you just like elaborate a little bit on the world view that Ayurveda has, the fundamental principles? What is the world view that the Ayurveda acharyas have spoken about?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sampaji. This is something which I feel that we have to do much deeper research. And pandemic has honestly given us the opportunity, because even before the word dharma became popular, the word that rishis were using in Vedas was ritam, rita, right? The universal principles. And this is where we realize that Rita is that which upholds the universe. And imagine our rishis, they had no funds to do research like all these medical laboratories, right? They were in the forest in Aranyak Sanskriti. They were connecting with the universal energy, the divine, to download into them that give us the truth. And that truth is called Ritambhara Pragya. Knowledge or intelligence, which is like a beam, and therefore everything gets illuminated. If we compare pandemic with darkness, then obviously the Ayurvedic worldview helps us to understand that all we need is light. And that light comes when we start understanding Rita. What is the universal principle which is holding this universe together? And it's evolving. It's not the final product where we are just staying and we live happily ever after. It's a continuous evolution. And all of us are part of that evolution. All of us have a role in that evolution. How do we understand that role? And to understand that role, we have to understand our swabhava and our swadharma. So this swabhava and swadharma will be the moment we understand, and therefore Ayurveda's worldview is very clear. It says hita ayu, sukha ayu. And why do we need that? Because we have to complete our 4 purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And moksha also has been, we all know, very wrongly translated as moksha means liberation from this life and rebirth. And that means we have to leave the sansara and you have to go and live in Himalayas or a forest. And therefore the younger generation would say, oh, moksha is not for us. But how many of us are victim of our own habitual patterns that we are not able to break? A simple example of New Year resolution. The West has made it very popular, right? 31st December and everyone starts making New Year resolution. However, those people who have tried making New Year resolution, everyone knows by 10th January, your resolutions start going down. So maybe you begin with trying to at least fulfill 80%, you go down to 5% and then you forget it. Breaking the habits, breaking the sanskara or the impressions on our manas is also moksha. The ability to get out of that. Only if we break our habit. A very simple example from Ayurveda of Ritam is Dinacharya and Ritucharya. If I want to live a Hita Ayu which is Hitakara to me, or Ayu which is giving me Sukha, I have to understand how I'm connected with the circadian rhythm. And therefore, why should I get up early? Why should I eat at a certain time? Why should I follow silence at another time? Why should I withdraw from outer world during evening sunset time? Why should I not go to a gym post sunset? When should I eat? How much should I eat? Which season? What diseases may come up? I mean, we are seeing all these spikes now and we are calling it second wave and we are getting, panicky. If we understand the basic worldview and principles of Ayurveda, we won't panic, because this is the time called Adan Kala, where the sun is going north, and therefore there will be spike in diseases like flu, common cold, and the kapha which is in your body during the winter is now getting disintegrated and trying to come out. So if this is how our body is connected with the ritu or the environment, then we know how to do preventive measures. We know how to change our diet. And therefore, we will be living a hita and sukha ayu.
Yeah, true.
It's very clearly laid down, Sampaji. I'm quite amazed that we have not opened up, centers of Ayurveda which are creating awareness. There are, of course, BAMS colleges which is teaching all this to the Ayurveda practitioners. But I feel pandemic has given us an opportunity for all Ayurveda practitioners to become health champions, wellness coaches, and become very vocal and tell people, stop, start looking at life, change your lens. I mean, if my glasses right now have some dust on it, I don't have to throw away my glasses, or I don't have to say, oh, I'm become blind. I just have to see that there is dust. I have to clean that dust. Life can be that simple. And therefore, the Ayurveda worldview is Hita, which is connecting me with the universe, with everyone. Today, we know that a small virus can create a global crisis. And nobody's safe, right? Because it has spread everywhere. And that butterfly effect, which quantum physics talks about, Ayurveda rishis had taught so many millennia ago that if you don't live Hitakara Ayu, then you will end up into a pandemic. The VUCA world was a signal to us, right? I mean, I'm quite surprised that in corporates, all managers were talking about VUCA worlds and they created a lot of presentations. HR created strategies to cope with the VUCA world, and nothing worked. It was like putting a band-aid on a gangrene. When you know that we have allowed something to go so much out of hand like a gangrene, we have to absolutely go to the root cause and correct the cause.
Very true. Like Sri Aurobindo had said once, I mean, he has written that the heavens' joys would have been earth's if the earth were pure. So, like we have lost that purity. When we
Absolutely.
talk about environmental pollutions, which you mentioned, pollution at every level, water pollution, air pollution, sound pollution, all kinds of pollutions, which are nothing but we find out reasons that, it is because of lack of, plantations or this or that. But, like if we look at from the Ayurveda point of view, what the rishis had seen, it is the impurity that we cherish within ourselves reflects or becomes translated as environmental pollutions. It is not just by planting trees that we can save the environmental pollutions, rather keeping our psychological, emotional, and the purity at that level.
Absolutely.
So yes. And this what you pointed out at one point, you talked about the integration disintegration of kapha. Even like this very word disintegration is the root cause of what the Ayurveda acharyas and the rishis of the past have mentioned, that disintegration, disharmony within ourselves, and disharmony within the pinda causes disharmony in the brahmanda also, because pinda and the brahmanda, they're eternally connected, this microcosm and macrocosm. So whatever happens in the pinda is affected, the brahmanda is affected by that, and whatever happens in the brahmanda also is reflecting in the pinda. So this harmony within ourselves is the Hello, sorry about it. So something technically happened. So this disintegration, disharmony being the root cause of all our diseases, all our crises. So how do we bring back this harmony and then make our life harmonious, make our life more of, like one life, not thousand lives in one life, a life which has a deeper connection with ourselves, which is the true meaning of dharma, true meaning of rhythm, true meaning of hita, true meaning of swastha. So what are the simple practical guidelines which the Ayurveda acharyas have given to us to maintain this harmony and then become rid of the disharmony which we consciously or unconsciously have created for us, which becomes the reason for our sickness, our like ahita, asukha, and dukkha. So what are some simple practical guidelines that the people can follow during this time, so then that harmony is maintained and we face the challenges, and then we remain in a protected environment, and we need to create that protected environment around us, So it is entirely up to every individuals. So can you mention certain practical guidelines from the Ayurveda acharyas, so which will help people during this pandemic time? Unmute, please.
Sorry, I was okay. Just to complete that, the reasons for pandemic, of course, it as you go back, it is the climate change. Climate change at 4 levels: the Vayu, Jala, Desha, Kala. But why did climate change happen? And the Ayurveda Acharya says it happened because of adharma, that people were not living according to dharma. And that adharma was the cause of climate change. And what caused adharma? And so I'll come back to the simple tips that you were asking. That what causes adharma is simple lack of sattva and higher rajas and tamas in our manas. The higher rajas creates that greed or lobha, and the higher tamas creates moha. So what happens is that we are not happy with what Mother Earth was giving us when organically food was grown. And therefore the hybrid and the genetically modified seeds were given to farmers with a lobha that, oh, you'll get higher yield. And in that lobha of higher yield, they didn't realize that seeds should be natural. Seeds are given to us by nature. The problem with us as human beings that we are not seeing ourselves as a part of nature, and therefore we are not able to live in harmony and integration. Our first disintegration began with Industrial Revolution, when we thought that we can use nature as a resource. Then we started using each other, human beings, as a resource. And then we all ended up as a consumer into the capitalist market. So now this adharma, or the lobha of more, having more, buying more, living a life which is full of hurry. I mean, I was reading a book by Paul Gilbert. He's a psychologist in UK, and his book Compassionate Mind says that we all have business model which are based on more. We don't have business models which are based on well-being. And this creates that disharmony or disintegration. So people are wanting more, people are collecting more, people are not even enjoying what they are collecting because they don't have time and energy. The VUCA world created so much stress and fatigue that people started taking artificial stimulants to feel energized rather than taking a pause. So the simple tips from Ayurveda to go, to not to go back. I love the word from our discussion yesterday, being in dharma, right? We don't need to go back, but we need to be in dharma. So what are the simple tips to be in dharma? The first one is to begin with a realization that we are part of the universe. We have come from nature. And therefore, when you study the biology from Ayurveda perspective, you study that we all are made up, the universe and us are made up of the same stuff, Panch Mahabhutas. We are not different. Human beings have not just evolved out of an amoeba and a monkey, right? It's also an involution. So we have come from the cosmos and the macrocosm, and us as microcosm, we are the one. So if we are the one, how are we unified? Like a simple prayer that most Indian families would be reciting, at least till a certain generation, is Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, Karamule Saraswati, Karamadhye Tu Gauri, Prabhate Kartu Kardarshanam. So the moment we wake up in the morning, if we are able to see the divine mothers in our hands, then we know that these hands have to work for the divine. Another shloka that most of the Indian families would have recited was Samudra Vasane Lakshmi, Parvatastana Mandale, Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam, Padasparsham Kshamaswame. What a delightful prayer that mother, forgive me because I'm walking on you. And the moment we see Mother Earth as Vishnu Patni or Mahalakshmi, we are so grateful. Today, the West is giving you a lot of exercises and a lot of training program to be grateful. Gratitude is seen as the biggest virtue. Unfortunately, you have to teach it and in corporate programs and patent those or trademarks those programs for gratitude. While our civilization has given us in simple prayers these gratitude emotion to begin the day with. So the moment we begin our day with realizing our connection with the cosmos, gratitude for Mother Earth, gratitude for sun, because every Indian household, there was a time which began with worshipping the sun. Opening your eyes before sunrise, right? And these small, small rituals, simple. Today we are all running around for oxygen. Having tulsi at home. I remember my grandmother will not begin a meal without having a tulsi leaf in her plate. Also, before eating, she would leave out one, morsel for the crow, one for the dog, one for the ants. And then only she would take her food and she'll begin it with a tulsi leaf. Now, this seems like a very old-fashioned ritual, but these are the connections which make us go beyond our selfish need, which means I'm not eating only for myself. I'm creating food for my ecosystem as well. I'm sharing my food with the ecosystem. This gesture actually expands our consciousness. See, one of the reasons, and I really hope that some scientific research gets done on why our lungs are collapsing. One, of course, is spending too much time on laptop and sitting in a crouched position, right? We have lost the art of sitting erect. So we are not breathing deep and full. That is, of course, one reason at a physical level. But at a much larger consciousness level, we have stopped sharing what we have with others around us. We have become xenophobic, right? We live for ourselves. The joint family system disintegrated to single families, and now single families are also becoming nano families. So obviously, when we are not connected with each other, how would our lungs feel the expansion? So the lungs to breathe fully, one, our physical posture has to be straight and erect. Take enough breathing breaks. Brahmari pranayam has been scientifically proved, and there are videos going around. I have also done a case study on Chaudhary Brahma Prakash Hospital near Delhi, where we have treated by now more than 3,000 patients of COVID positive only with Ayurveda and pranayama. And they have also included Omkar chanting, dancing, listening to music, doing japa, which is what Ayurveda Acharya have written. In Charak Samhita, on the same chapter on Janapado Dhvamsa, they say that how will you protect yourself during a pandemic? What can you do? And it's very clearly mentioned. I'll read in Hindi first, and then maybe we can translate if people have not understood. Satya ka palan karna. So truth is emerging as a biggest dharma or rhythm. There is a book by David R. Hawkins called Power versus Force, where he has calibrated our energy. And he says that your body also knows when you are saying truth or lies. And our energy goes down when we are not speaking the truth. He has calibrated the energy, done scientifically, world over experimented. So no wonder our Ayurveda Acharyas, the first sentence they say to protect yourself during pandemic, Satya ka palan karna. Prani matra par daya rakhna. Daan dena. So many people need support today. Whatever help we can give. Devtaon ki puja karna. Because Devta are the higher beings, right? I mean, they are little evolved than the human beings, and they are ready. They are the beings who are ready to help us when we ask them. Sadavritta ka palan karna. There is an entire section on Sadavritta, and we have forgotten it today. We don't teach it in schools. We don't practice it ourselves. We don't teach it in colleges. You know, all our vritta or acharana, we are borrowing from the West. How to make better presentations, how to make your CV better. But we are not teaching how to live better. Sadavritta ka palan karna, shanti rakhna. The mother has written so much about peace. She actually says that we have to invoke peace, invite peace, and therefore practice silence. Because it's only in silence that solutions would emerge. It's only in silence that we can heal. Apni raksha karna, hitakara sthan par rehna, brahmacharya ka palan karna, ब्रह्मचारियों की सेवा करना, धर्म शास्त्रों की कथा सुनना, listen to stories from our own ancient civilization, and they give us so much energy, right? When you look at Nachiketa's story, which talks about Shreyas and prayers, where Shreyas is what is hitakar or good for us and humanity, while prayers is what is giving us temporary joy. सात्विक तथा वृद्धों द्वारा समर्थित पुरुषों के साथ बैठना, sit with positive people. Unfortunately, today what happens, we all spend time talking negative and what is happening in pandemic. Can we create more hope and optimism? And also it says that only those will die who have lived with adharma or whose time to die has come. Mother has also very clearly mentioned that it's the fear which is more contagious than the virus or the microbe. The moment we are in fear, our lungs collapsed. We are not realizing that spreading fear, experiencing fear, is one of the major cause of our collapse today. And therefore, connecting with divine, whichever divine we believe in, practicing silence, practicing sadavritta, practicing circadian rhythm. Just because we are at home in lockdown doesn't mean that we keep awake whole night and we sleep during the day. That is, in fact, we are losing our immunity when we do that. Not eating junk food, because I've realized a lot of youth today is, munching junk food, watching junk programs on various social media. And that is causing more of adharma. That is causing more of illnesses at every level.
Yes, so Sadvritta Palanam, Satya Palanam, Daya, Dana, Dhriti, Kshama, all the beautiful soul values which are mentioned by the Acharyas in the Shastras. So, because the humanity has almost forgotten all these values, and if even someone talks about these values and the cherishing of these values, so the young minds and even the adult minds, they feel that like we are reconnecting them with the outdated past, or talking something alien to the whole human culture. So without cherishing these values, what has happened, life has ceased to become beautiful. Life
Right.
has stopped to become beautiful.
Very true.
So we have lost that whole sense of beauty at every level, at the physical, at the emotional, sensational, at the thought level. So we need to, like, if life has to be beautiful, this sense of beauty with nurturing these values. And what the ancient seers and sages have said is about the apyayana. Apyayana is the nourishment, nurturing these good values, the sadvrittas, mangalachara shilah, sadhuveshah. So all these beautiful things we have, which are practical, which were in practice. So we have stopped nurturing these values, and then we have stopped, becoming or making our life, putting ourselves in a horrible situation. When something like this happens, any crisis happens, we lose all our strength, physical, emotional, psychological strength, and then we're unable to face the challenges of life because we have ceased to become the beautiful beings on the earth. So
Very true,
with these
Sampaji. And
words,
this is exactly now the beauty is what Bhagavad Gita talks of Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat,
mm,
right?
mm,
And
yes,
again, the same Satya, Ahimsa, these are the same values that Ayurveda Acharya has talked about, are
mm,
given in Daivi Sampat. But
mm,
unfortunately, what we see in our Western worldview, which has also gripped us, the land of rishis, are the Asuri values, the Asuri Sampat.
yeah.
And as
In,
you rightly said, only if we live a beautiful life, our death also can be beautiful.
mhm.
Today, neither our life is beautiful, and unfortunately, death has become ugly.
Mm. Whereas in the tradition, death is considered to be Mahotsava, a
Mahotsava,
great
exactly.
festival. It has to be
Absolutely
celebrated. Okay, one should celebrate it.
true.
So it is like the Ayurveda says, na, comparing it with like Srishti Sthiti Pralaya.
Well,
Like we become created, we sustain ourselves, and then we merge. Like a tree grows, bears fruits and flowers, and then withers. And then again, it goes into its seed for the further manifestation of it. Avyakta deni bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata. We're just in that stage.
right.
So this we need to remember. And also, like this beauty, the sadvrittas, I feel that can be compiled and then made a part of our life, daily life. The practice of sadvrittas, what the acharyas have mentioned. So I think with these words, I thank you, Malaji, and then all the viewers. If you have any question, we would like to invite questions. So you can switch on your microphone and then ask the questions. And we have 7 to 8 minutes. We will try to uh, give some brief answers to the questions.
Malaji, I'll start with one question that probably is on the minds of many people. So, in this pandemic, the people who are really suffering are the people who have some preconditions, who haven't lived a very healthy life. And of course, as you said, fear is, with all the media attention and everything, these people are also very fearful. So, what are your advice for the, especially this, set of community who haven't lived a very healthy life and are very scared for if what happens if corona hits them.
One mother very clearly says, with a gesture, throw the fear away. You know how we used to take out nazar, for with children we used to do that, right? Ki nazar utar rahe hain kisi ki. So
Yes, yes.
just do that to yourself. Fear and throw it away. Actually, it can happen because fear is nothing else but a vibration. And the moment we put the fear away, simple tips: take bath every day. Lot of people in younger generation, unfortunately, don't follow the simple hygiene which is given in Sadavritta. Get up early, take bath every day. In Corona times, maybe 2 or 3 times if you're going out and meeting others, right? Eat sattvic ahar. I mean, eat food which is easy to digest, right? Eat at the right time. Do enough exercise to allow your body to feel rejuvenated. And many times what happens, I mean, many of us would have enjoyed a horror film, right? When you're watching this horror on the screen, you feel that fear. But however, you are also inside aware that this is only a film, right? It's not real. Look at your own life, detach from your own life. See pandemic as a horror film on the screen, right? Withdraw inside And that isolation, connect with the higher light, connect with whichever divine you believe in. Like my personal belief is a lot with Hanumanji. I think he's around, he's there in the air. And the moment you call him, he's going to come and help you. Right? So whichever deity or whichever higher being you align with, invoke that deity. See, today in Kali Yuga, even your own mother doesn't come and feed you if you don't ask, right? I mean, you have to say, Mama, I'm hungry. Only then the plate will come on your table. Invite that deity. Protect me. Feel that protection. Also, there is a book by Viktor Frankl called The Meaning of Man's Search for Meaning. I would advise every young person today to read that. He was in Nazi camp, and we all know that our life in pandemic is much better compared to being a Jew in a Nazi camp, right? How did he survive that? He created a visual, and creative visualization is all we can do. He created a visual of him, his own self in future, outside the Nazi camp with freedom. Why? Because he can accomplish certain tasks. He had the vision of writing a book, which only he can do. So if we all have that calling, that purpose, which can guide us, right? Which can pull us out of the muck where we are. And that compelling vision will give us the energy to not just survive, but flourish post-pandemic.
Many people would connect it to invoking or inviting deity with, like the religious ideas and things. But in a true sense, in a deeper sense, invoking or inviting a deity means to grow conscious and allow that divine potential which is within ourselves, represented by that deity, so to grow within us, to manifest within us. So that's how the consciousness expands, and in an expanded consciousness, one becomes free from all these lower qualities like fear, anxiety, apprehensions, and all sorts of problems that we keep facing. So how much we keep the gods as our friends, and then so all those who keep the god in the heart are safe, but somewhere we have forgotten. We don't believe in that also.
Sampaji, this is where the worldview is different, right? I mean, when we talk of aliens, we talk of them as Devi Devtas who come and help us, right? But when you see Hollywood films, all the aliens are very destructive. They have come on this planet to destroy the planet. So there is so much of fear mongering. But for us, the aliens are friendly. In fact, they are higher beings, they are divine beings.
So, Malaji, there is a
Yeah, ma'am.
question. Yeah.
Ma'am, sir, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, sure, Priyanshu.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. It has been an enlightening talk, and I was really looking forward to it. Ma'am, since some time I have been thinking about worldviews, and this talk really gave me some cues about understanding the worldview. Ma'am, as you rightly mentioned, that the Western paradigm or the Western world is somewhat based upon this evolutionary biology framework, in which survival is the only objective which they have in mind, and hence they have a different, or so as to say, a very limited understanding of what happiness is or what joy is. But ma'am, from an Indic perspective or from a Hindu philosophical point of view, that is not joy. It is based upon Rita or Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya, and that requires us to work upon ourselves so that we can also realize that thing. But ma'am, in the present context, where the world is moving towards, things like artificial intelligence, ma'am, they are taking away the decision-making power from us, and more machines are doing the decision-making and analytical decision-making for us. So, ma'am, in such a situation where we are outsourcing almost every analytical thing, we are becoming more and more lazy, ma'am. How can we, develop this Ayurvedic worldview or Indic worldview? Because ma'am, tips and tricks definitely help, but to fight a worldview, we also need a worldview which is political, social, and economic. So, ma'am, how shall we fight this strong worldview,
Okay.
which is
Thank you, Priyanshu. First of all, in your own question, you answered somewhere that the the technology or the artificial intelligence taking away our decision-making power, influencing us, brainwashing us, and making us lazy, right? So there is certainly a world conspiracy to make majority of human beings devoid of thinking power, right? So in fact, we don't even need to fight back, because when you fight, and this is exactly what Power versus Force David R. Hawkins says, when you are positive, when you are rooted in dharma, he doesn't use the word dharma, he uses different words, but they actually culminate into dharma. The moment you raise your vibrational power by practicing dharma, by being more in sattva, what happens is your energy nullifies a lot of negative energy around you. So you don't even have to fight. The mother gives a beautiful example. If there is darkness, I don't need to enter a dark room and fight with darkness, go away, go away. If you just light a lamp, the darkness disappears. So be the light. And how do we become a light? By going with it. Become
Right.
more Shuddha, do practices like Sri Ravi Shankar, Isha. There are a lot of Kriya Yogas. I find Kriya Yoga very powerful. I personally practice 3SRB by Tavaria ji. Google out all this. Thanks to technology, we have access to these people who are teaching us how to vibrate at a higher level. The moment you start vibrating at a higher level, or as it is, you're able to see the deception, right? You are able to see the conspiracy. The moment you are able to see it, you'll be able to disassociate with it. Use technology positively as and where needed, but don't become a victim of technology.
Right, ma'am.
Atma Bhava
Thank
is
you, ma'am.
the, yes. So Atma Bhava, be the light of yourself and then shine with the light of the self in most being. So we are busy
Can I ask
outsourcing,
a
but
question?
we should, like insource things.
Can I ask a question?
I think we can take it as the last question, maybe. We need to end the session.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Yes, Induji.
I just want to ask Malaji and you also that the younger generation, as you were relating, Satya or presence of God, we should feel the presence of the God, like all those kind of the Hindu ideology, if we follow that. But younger generation will not yield to all what you are saying. They want the proof that how you can say that if we follow Satya, then it will increase the energy, or if we don't, if we follow Satya, it will degrade our energy, or feeling or presence of God will be potentially, enriching us. All that younger generation doesn't listen to that. They say that where is the proof? What is the proof?
Induji, my personal experience is very different than yours. In fact, the younger generation is very ready and hungry for these things. If you go to Isha Ashram, if you look at the followers of Sri Ravi Shankar, if you go to Auroville, you'll only find majority of younger generation trying to seek meaning in this materialistic world. Right?
Ma'am, I'm.
And if you are able to connect with them logically, see, you have only answered your question. They want the proof. So give them the proof. For that, you need to do research.
I teach science students. I'm a chemistry professor. So for everything, they want the proof that
Very
life
true.
of.
Of course, why shouldn't they want the proof? And therefore, Ayurveda actually gives you the logical connection. So do more research. Find out the science. The science will come to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Induji. Be positive, and the answers, I mean, if you really are seeking the proof so that you can spread the light, leave this as an intention tonight before sleeping. Tomorrow morning actually will be a new morning for you, because from somewhere the universe will help you find those proofs and answers. Trust the universe.
Thank you. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Dhanyavada.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Malaji and Sampath sir, for joining us. This was a very enlightening talk. And I think what I really took away was if we can really, inculcate the responsibility and gratitude towards Mother Earth and the consciousness that we are all part of nature, I think that will really help things, turn around. So thank you very much. And thank you everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, please reach out to us through email on live@languagecurry.com. We'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Dhanyawad, Anisha from
Dhanyawad.
Language Curry, Sampath ji. Dhanyawad. Punah.
Dhanyawad.
धन्यवाद.